Project in the shop today is a 1992 F150 two-wheel drive. We're going to do all four ball joints, both upper and lower on the front end. So the issue that I noticed with this truck was uneven tire wear. And so after I discovered the uneven tire wear, I went ahead and jacked it up, and I've removed the wheels off both sides. I put this one back on just to show you guys. It's got two lug nuts, they're very tight. Just to demonstrate the issue that we're having with this truck and how to tell that it's ball joints. So again, we got the wheel on here fastened securely. Put my hand at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock and pull in and out and up and down and see if I get any movement. So that's a fair amount of movement. There should be none. So up and down is ball joints. At 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, if I wiggle, that would be tie rod ends. And I don't notice any movement there. So we need ball joints. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, if you got it up on a jack, go ahead and get it on jack stands. And that's what I've got. We're going to do both sides. I checked both sides. This side is a little worse than the other side, but the other side also has some play in it. So we're going to do both sides. I went ahead and jacked it up and put it on jack stands. So I've got jack stands under the front end very securely. I feel good about that. Whenever I put anything up on jack stands, I always really try to rock the vehicle forward and backwards, side to side, make sure if it's going to fall off those jack stands, I want to do it before I start crawling around under it. So we're good there. I'm going to go ahead and get this tire off of here. We're going to pull the brake assembly apart, and I'll show you what that all looks like. Okay, so we pulled the wheel off, and this is what we're looking at after the wheel's removed. Got it laying there next to us. We need to get the brake caliper off of there, and if you're used to working on more modern cars, to get the brake caliper off, normally there's a couple of bolts back here. Well, on this truck, we don't have those bolts. This is a sort of a different system for holding the caliper on. See that sort of diamond shaped, sort of split pin? There's one up here and there's one down here. We're going to drive those out. So I'm going to get a punch, hammer, maybe a couple other tools, maybe a screwdriver, something like that. And we're just going to drive those pins straight back. They should pop out, and that should free up the caliper. There's the top one. There's the bottom one. There's the caliper. Take the brake pads off just so we don't drop them. Got myself a little metal hook. We'll hang this up here out of the way. So we will need to loosen and remove the tie rod from this joint. These are the ball joints. Here is the upper. Here's the lower down here. This is what we're going to be replacing. So the very next thing we need to do is pull this cotter pin out of this castle nut on the tie rod end, and then we'll remove the castle nut, or nearly remove it, and we'll separate this joint. I should probably mention, or I should have already mentioned, that a couple days ago, when I knew I needed to do this project, I got under here with a can of liquid wrench, and I sprayed all these bolts and threads and all these joints back here. I did not spray the caliper pins because I don't want to get that liquid wrench on the brake pads, but all this stuff got sprayed, so it's been soaking for a couple of days. Nearly off, but I want it to hold because I'm going to separate this joint. I want that nut to catch it so that this end doesn't fall out. So I'm going to whack right here with a hammer, fingers crossed, that'll break this free. There we go. Did you see it? That dropped down just a little bit. The nut held it. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the nut the rest of the way. There we go. Put that back on. So next I'm going to remove the cotter pin and castle nut from the lower ball joint. I can't get my breaker bar and socket to fit in there, so we're going to have to do this with a wrench. Now I'm going to try to hit right here and break this joint. I've left that nut on there to catch the thing. Did you see it fall? So the nut caught it. This is going to be really heavy, so I'm going to be careful here not to drop this whole assembly, because as soon as that nut lets go, this will be free now. Try not to have to sort of upset that knobby looking thing there. It's a adjustment for alignment. I forget if that's, what do you call it, camber? So anyhow, I'm trying not to have to move that. I want to leave that alone. That way when I put this thing back together, it'll be reasonably close to drive it down to the alignment shop. But after I do ball joints, that's going to be the next thing. As long as I don't find anything funny, I'm going to take this thing straight to the alignment shop and get it aligned. So we can see here what we're looking at. That is way too loose. I got just a little bit of up and down play in it. This one's here a little more snug. But anyhow, we know they're bad, so let's get this thing over on the bench, and I'll show you what we're going to do to remove both of these. Okay, so we're up on the workbench, and the lower is held in by a snap ring. See it there? So I'm going to grab my snap ring pliers, do some finagling with a screwdriver, get that snap ring off of there, and we'll go from there. Okay, there's the snap ring. So now we're going to go to this toolkit. This is a ball joint press kit. You can get these from, I think, Advance, O'Reilly, probably AutoZone, all the big names will rent you a kit. Essentially, you pay for the kit up front. You pay full retail price, and they're not cheap. And then when you bring the kit back, they'll give you your money back. So, like, I bought my ball joints at Advance and then paid full price for the kit, and after this project's over, I'm going to take this kit back and get my money back. I don't do a tremendous amount of ball joints out here in the shop, and it's hard for me to justify the cheapest kit. The very cheapest kits you can get are like $100, Harbor Freight or Amazon, and it's hard for me to justify a $100 kit for something that I might only use once every few years, where I'll pay a little bit more for the ball joints by buying them, you know, somewhere local, like in this case Advance. So I pay a little bit more for the ball joints, but I get to use the kit for nothing essentially. And then also by buying the ball joints locally, they're typically maybe a touch better quality, or in my mind I like to believe that they are a little better quality than the junk you get off of Amazon. And then if I do have problems with them, I can always take them back. So for those reasons, I get to use the kit for nothing and maybe a little better quality. That's why we're doing it this way. So I'm going to get the appropriate adapters here. They come with, this is like a 25-piece kit or 23-piece kit. Come with all these adapters and the press. It's essentially, it's a gigantic C-clamp because it takes a tremendous amount of pressure to push those out. So I'm going to do some finagling, decide which is the right piece for me, and we're going to go ahead and we'll push the bottom, the lower ball joint, we'll push that one out first, then the upper, and then when we put them back together, we'll put the upper in first, and then the lower. There we go, there's the lower ball joint. There we go. So I'm pretty happy with how they came out, given how rusty they are. I'm going to take some sandpaper and clean this up inside both of these just lightly. I don't want to, I don't want to do any damage, but I want to make sure to clean up all the rust in there, and they feel pretty good. So just a light sanding, clean them up a little bit. So this is the new one. I'm just comparing, overall diameter, overall length, and looks good. So we'll go ahead and, this is the upper. We're going to go ahead and press it in first. I'm going to take the boot off the thing to get it to press in. I want to find the perfect adapter to fit on that ridge to push it in. Now you want to be sure that you're getting everything lined up just right. Everything is sitting together properly, that the parts of the press are nested together. You don't have anything out of whack or, angled funny. Okay, we're pretty well flush across the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and put that boot back on there so we don't get a bunch of dirt in there. That's it for that one. Now I'm comparing the original and the replacement. Diameters look the same, lengths look the same, everything looks the same. Again, we're going to take off the boot. We don't want to get a bunch of dirt and stuff down in there, but we don't want to damage the boot when we're pressing it in. Bottoming out on this bottom plate. I'm going to have to find a different plate to use for the bottom. Boot back on before it gets lost. Each of these boxes, each of these joints came with a hardware kit, and they also come with grease fittings. So I'm going to make sure I put those grease fittings in them also. Okay, snap rings in. We're going to put the grease fitting in now. Hopefully we won't run into any clearance issues. Okay, let's take our completed assembly back over to the truck. Again, this is heavy and awkward, so don't get yourself hurt. Try not to damage anything doing it. Okay, so that top adjuster did come out. Not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to wipe it up real good with a rag, and we'll stick it right back in, roughly in the same position that it was when it came out. That's actually probably a good thing that that did come out as easy as it did. That way we know it's loose in there, it's not seized up, and when we take it for an alignment here in a few days, that it'll work properly for the guys doing the alignment. $58 foot-pounds on that one. I'm going to use the old castle nut after all. This new one's too short. The hole is way above the nut. So if I put the cotter pin in there, it wouldn't do any good because the hole's up so high. It's up above the nut. Well, now we know to don't put the grease fitting on until after we tighten up the bottom, or lower ball joint rather. Put the bolt and nut in the top, make sure that adjuster is down snug. Now we're going to go with a torque setting of 97 foot-pounds. That seems like an awful lot for this little bolt. So I'm going to see what it feels like. And if that feels like too much, we're just going to quit before we break the bolt. Yeah, that's a lot. It didn't seem excessive, but that's plenty. Don't forget to put the grease fitting back in. Okay, let's put our tie rod back in. And we're going to go with 63 foot-pounds on this one. You may or may not be able to see that rust falling out of there, but this dust cover is in really, really poor condition, but we're going to leave it. We want to make sure we get any grease that we might have accidentally gotten on that rotor. We want to make sure that comes off. Well, lug nuts are tight enough for now, but until I get it on the ground, I won't be able to tighten them up properly. But I wanted to show you guys that since we replaced those ball joints, now if I put pressure down at 6 and 12, and I push and pull, no movement, no noise, no nothing. Sounds kind of crunchy because of the there's chunks of rust, I think, floating around back here behind that dust cover, but we are in good shape here. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side, and then I'll get it down off the jack stands and tighten up the lug nuts properly. And that'll be it for this project. So I hope I helped you with this one. If I did, click that thumbs up button. Let me know down in the comments if I did help you, or if I didn't, how I can make the video better. If you want to see more videos like this, of me working on this truck or other stuff out here in the shop, click the subscribe button. Till the next time, keep on tinkering.